If I'd known that drive to the gas station would destroy everything between us, I never would have turned the key. It was a gray Sunday morning, the kind that smells like burnt toast and bad coffee. My daughter Chloe was pacing by the window, still in her pajamas, phone glued to her hand. She was 24, smart, stubborn, and always chasing something bigger than this small Ohio town. "Mom, can you just drive me to the station?" she asked. "I need to buy a lottery ticket before the cutoff." I remember laughing. "You hate the lottery. You said it's for people who don't plan ahead." "Yeah, well, maybe I've changed," she said, rolling her eyes. "Can we go? I'm feeling lucky." It was rare for her to ask me for anything these days. After her dad left, I'd spent years trying to fill both roles, mother and father. But the older she got, the more she pulled away. So when she asked, I said yes, even though I had laundry waiting and a headache brewing. The drive took 7 minutes. The silence between us felt heavier than the clouds outside. I wanted to ask about her new job, her new boyfriend, whether she'd eaten breakfast, but she kept scrolling on her phone, earbuds in like I was her Uber driver. At the counter, she handed over $5, bought 1 ticket, and tucked it into her coat pocket like it was nothing. "You happy now?" I teased. She shrugged. "We'll see." When I dropped her off at her apartment later, she barely said goodbye. I drove home, turned on the radio, and tried not to take it personally. 3 days later, my phone rang at 6 a.m. I thought something was wrong. When I answered, Chloe was screaming, laughing, crying, all at once. "Mom, I won! I won!" I sat up in bed, heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" "The ticket, the one you drove me to get. $30 million, Mom! $30 million!" I was stunned, silent. My little girl, the one I used to chase around playgrounds with grass stains on her knees, was suddenly a millionaire. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "I'm so proud of you." But I didn't know then that pride would turn into heartbreak. Because 2 weeks later, that same daughter, the one whose life I'd built mine around, would look me in the eye and tell me to get out. And that's when everything I thought I knew about love, loyalty, and motherhood came crashing down. The news spread faster than wildfire in our small town. Chloe's face was on every local paper. "Young woman wins $30 million jackpot." The photo showed her holding a giant check, smiling like she'd finally caught the world. I was at work when I saw it. I worked the morning shift at a diner off Highway 22, pouring coffee for truckers, balancing plates, pretending not to hear their gossip. That day, everyone wanted to talk about her. "You must be so proud, Mrs. Taylor," my coworker Janie said, eyes wide. "Your daughter's famous now?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, she's always been lucky." What I didn't say was that Chloe hadn't called me once since the morning she'd screamed with joy over the phone. Not once. I left her messages. "I'm so happy for you, sweetheart. Let's celebrate this weekend." No reply. Sent her texts. "Do you need help sorting through things? Taxes, maybe?" Silence. 2 weeks passed before I saw her again. She pulled up to my house in a brand new white Mercedes, sunglasses on, music thumping so loud I felt it in my chest. When she stepped out, she looked like someone I didn't recognize. Glossy hair, designer coat, the faintest whiff of expensive perfume. "Wow," I said, trying to smile. "You look incredible." "Thanks," she said flatly. I wanted to talk. Inside, she didn't sit down, just paced, glancing at the old furniture like it offended her. "I'm moving," she said finally. "To L.A." My stomach dropped. "Already? You just won, Chloe. That's across the country." "Exactly," she said. "That's the point." I tried to steady my voice. "Honey, I get it. You want a new start. But maybe we could plan it together. I could help you find a place." She cut me off. "Mom, no offense, but I don't need help. Not anymore." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because of what she said, but how she said it. Detached. Like I was some woman who'd babysat her once. Not the one who'd stayed up nights when she had fevers, who'd worked double shifts to buy her prom dress. "Chloe, I'm not trying to control anything," I said quietly. "I just want to be part of your life." She sighed. "You always make everything about you." I froze. That wasn't anger in her voice. It was disgust. She walked toward the door, car keys in hand. Look, I'll send you some money. Maybe you can fix up this place. But I need space, okay? When the door closed behind her, I stood there in the silence she left behind. The kind that hums like grief. I didn't care about her money. I just wanted my daughter back. But something deep inside me, the part that had watched her grow colder every year, knew this wasn't just distance. It was goodbye. A week after that conversation, a letter came in the mail. No note, no return address. Just an envelope with my name written in her neat, slanted handwriting. Inside was a cashier's check, $100,000. For a moment, I just stared at it. My fingers trembled. That kind of money could have cleared every debt I had. The mortgage, the medical bills, the old car with more rust than paint. But something about it made my chest tighten instead of lighten. I called her right away. She didn't answer. I texted, "Chloe, I can't accept this. Please call me." No reply. 2 days later, she finally picked up. Her tone was clipped, almost rehearsed. "Mom, did you get the check?" "I did," I said. "And I don't want it." "Why not?" she snapped. "You need it. You've been struggling for years. I'm trying to help you." "Help me?" My voice cracked. "Honey, I didn't drive you to buy that ticket because I wanted a cut. I did it because you asked me to." There was a pause, then colder. "You can't keep guilt-tripping me forever. I worked hard my whole life, too. I deserve this." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You do. You absolutely do. But you don't have to erase me to enjoy it." She sighed like she was tired of the whole conversation. "Look, Mom, I'm moving out next week. My lawyer said it's best we handle things separately from now on. I'll have someone deliver your check properly." "Your lawyer?" I repeated, stunned. "Since when do you need a lawyer to talk to your mother?" "Since I have something to lose," she said flatly, and hung up. That night I sat at the kitchen table with that check in front of me. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the rain tapping against the window. I thought about every time I'd stayed up late sewing her Halloween costumes, every scraped knee I'd kissed Beto, every time I'd told her she could be anything. And now, here I was, a name on an envelope, a problem she was trying to solve with money. I tore the check in half, then again, until the pieces were too small to read. My tears fell on the table, soaking the paper. She could buy a mansion, a new life, a new everything, but she couldn't buy her way out of what she'd just done. Still, deep down, I wasn't angry. I was terrified, because I could feel it. I was losing her completely. 2 months passed without a word from Chloe. Every day I told myself she'd call. Maybe when things settled down, maybe when the spotlight faded. But silence has a way of turning from worry to ache. Then one afternoon, as I wiped down the diner counter, Janie rushed over with her phone in hand. "You need to see this." It was a social media post. Chloe standing in front of a sprawling white mansion in Beverly Hills, champagne in hand, her arm around a man I'd never seen. New home, new life. Dreams really do come true. My heart clenched. There she was, my baby girl, smiling like she'd finally found happiness. Only there was no trace of me in that picture. Not in her words, not in her world. I called her that night anyway. The line rang, and for a second I thought she'd answer. Then her voice filled the line. "This number is no longer in service." She'd changed her number. That's when I booked a ticket to Los Angeles. Not to beg, not to fight, just to see her, to make sure she was really okay. Her mansion was hidden behind tall gates, guarded by men in black suits. When I told them I was her mother, one of them raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Taylor?" She didn't mention expecting anyone. "Just tell her I'm here," I said. My hands were shaking. They spoke into an earpiece, waited, then said, "She's home, but she says she's unavailable." My stomach dropped. "Unavailable?" The guard hesitated, uncomfortable. "She said to tell you, she doesn't want visitors right now." For a long moment I just stood there, staring at the iron gates that separated me from the little girl I once tucked into bed every night. Finally I whispered, "Can you just tell her I love her?" He nodded politely, but I knew the message would never reach her. I turned back toward the street, the California sun burning down on my shoulders. the city noise buzzing like static in my ears. That's when I heard her voice, faint but unmistakable, coming from the open balcony above. "Mom, just go," she called down. "Please." I looked up. She was standing there, sunglasses on, her expression blank. Not angry, not sad, just gone. "Chloe, I came all this way. Don't," she said. Her voice cracked for half a second before she steadied it. "You'll only make this harder." And then she turned and walked inside, closing the glass door behind her. I stood there until the guards politely asked me to leave. When I got back to my motel that night, I sat on the bed and stared at my reflection in the mirror. The woman who had given everything to raise her daughter, now shut out of her life like a stranger. That was the night I stopped calling. That was the night I realized money doesn't just change people, it can erase them. Months passed. I tried to move on, but everywhere I turned, Chloe's name found me. Her photos were in magazines, her interviews on morning shows. Young lottery winner shares secrets to success. She wore designer gowns now, talked about manifesting abundance, and smiled like she'd always been destined for it. But every time I saw that smile, I remembered the way she used to grin at me when she lost a tooth, when she aced a test, when we'd bake cookies at midnight just to talk. That smile was gone. I started avoiding the TV, the radio, even the grocery store, where her face sometimes showed up on tabloids near the register. Still, the ache never really faded. Then one morning, Janie came rushing into the diner, her expression pale. "Martha," she whispered, holding her phone toward me. "You need to see this." It was a headline. "Lottery winner Chloe Taylor's lavish lifestyle under fire after lawsuit from former business partner." I read the article twice. Apparently Chloe's boyfriend, the one in all her photos, had convinced her to invest millions into a startup that never existed. He'd taken her money and disappeared overseas. My chest tightened. I sat down hard on one of the diner stools, feeling the world spin. "She lost almost everything," Janie murmured. "They're saying the rest might be frozen in court." That night I stared at my phone for hours, thumb hovering over her name, or at least the old number that no longer worked. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think about anything else. She might have shut me out, but she was still my daughter. The next day I mailed a letter. No accusations, no "I told you so." Just 6 words. "You can always come home, Chloe." I didn't expect an answer. 3 weeks later there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find her standing there, hair tangled, eyes red, face stripped of makeup and pride. She looked 24 again, but smaller somehow. Broken. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the word Mom. For a moment I couldn't move. Then I reached for her. She collapsed into my arms, shaking, sobbing so hard I felt her ribs tremble against mine. "I messed up," she cried. "I was stupid and selfish, and I didn't know how to stop." I held her face in my hands, wiping her tears with my thumbs. "You don't have to explain," I said softly. "You're here. That's all that matters." She nodded against my shoulder, whispering, "I don't deserve you." I smiled through my own tears. "Maybe not, but I'm your mother. You don't have to earn that." That night, we sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I'd torn her check months ago. Only this time, it wasn't paper between us. It was forgiveness. The morning after she came home, I woke up to the smell of coffee. For a moment, I thought I was dreaming, until I walked into the kitchen and saw her standing there, hair tied up, wearing one of my old flannel shirts. "Morning," she said, voice still raspy from crying. "I hope you still take it black." I did. I always had. And just like that, the years between us, the hurt, the silence, the pride, began to dissolve. She sat across from me, hands wrapped around her mug. "I thought money would fix everything," she said quietly. "I thought it would fill all the holes. Instead, it just made them bigger." I reached across the table and took her hand. "Money doesn't change who we are, sweetheart. It just shows us what's already broken." She nodded, eyes glistening. "When I lost it all, I realized I had no one left to call. No one except you. And I was so scared you wouldn't open the door. I'd open it 1,000 times," I said softly. "You're my daughter, Chloe. You could win the world or lose it all. You'd still have me. Her shoulders shook as she tried not to cry again. I don't want to go back to who I was, Mom. I want to start over. This time, with you. So we did. She found a small apartment near town and started volunteering at a local community center, helping women rebuild their lives after hardship. I watched her slowly find her footing again. No cameras, no headlines, no designer clothes, just my daughter laughing in the kitchen, learning how to live small and honest. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted our little world gold, she handed me something. It was a lottery ticket, unused, unmarked. I bought it today, she said with a shy smile. But this one's not for luck. It's a reminder. I turned it over in my hands. Of what? She looked me in the eye. That the real jackpot was you? I laughed through the tears that filled my throat. Then I stood and pulled her into a hug that felt like healing itself. The ticket sat pinned to my fridge from that day on, not as a symbol of what she lost, but of what we both found again. And every time I look at it, I remember the morning I drove my daughter to buy the ticket that changed everything. But in the end, it wasn't the millions that mattered. It was the drive home,